Hi, welcome to Hersham Baptist Church. My name's Jo and I'm going to be talking to you today about who is Jesus. Well, over the last few weeks, we've been asking some big questions like, why are we here? How can we know God? And who is God? This week's question is, who is Jesus? And this is the answer. Jesus is God's son. He is fully God and he's fully human. Now for a 60-second challenge. Are you ready? I need you to go and find something long. It can be a stick, a tie from your dad's wardrobe, a skipping rope, a golf club. We're going to use it to limbo. It just needs to be long and you need two people, one to hold each end. And you need your mum and dad to demonstrate how to do the limbo. So in a second, I'm going to pause while you go find it and then we're going to start our 60-second challenge. And I want you to see how many times you can each go under the limbo stick, getting lower and lower each time you go. Right, now go find your stick. Pause the video now. Great, you're back. Now, let's see how many times you can get under that limbo stick. Are you ready? Steady, go! How low did you manage to go? Now, why did we play that game? Well, we'll find out in a minute. But first this week, we're going to think about Jesus and what kind of person he was. A few weeks ago, we asked the question, who's God? And we discovered that Jesus is God's son. And at the same time, he is God. Jesus is God in human form, with arms and legs and fingers and toes. And that's the first part of our answer. Jesus is fully God. Now, if God were on earth right now as a man, I wonder what you think he'd be like. Maybe he'd have a superhero cape and be able to fly like Superman. Or maybe he'd be really strong like the Hulk. Or maybe everything he had would be made of gold. Perhaps he'd have all the sweets and chocolates he could eat. Maybe he'd have an amazing palace like Elsa. Well, actually, when Jesus came to earth, he had none of these things. He came to earth as a baby and he cried like all the others. He had to go to school and learn to write his name. And then, when he was older, he had to go to work. Do you know, he was a carpenter. And when he was hanging out with his friends, he even washed their smelly feet. But Jesus didn't stop there. He eventually got arrested and he got put to death on a cross. The worst kind of punishment there is. You see, although Jesus was fully God, he was fully man too, and he had to go through all the things that people do. He became the lowest sort of person, a servant. He gave his whole life for other people. Do you remember our limbo game? Well, if Jesus was playing, he would have got down the lowest. He was prepared to go as low as necessary to save us. Just listen to what his friends say about him in the Bible. In a letter to the Philippian church, as you deal with one another, you should think and act as Jesus did. In his very nature, he was God. Jesus was equal with God, but Jesus didn't take advantage of that fact. Instead, he made himself nothing. He did this becoming like a servant. He was made just like human beings. He appeared as man. He was humble and obeyed God completely. He did this even though it led to his death. And you can find that reading in Philippians 2, verses 5 to 8. Wow! Jesus is a very different kind of God to how we might have imagined. But that's what makes him so special. He loves us so much that he was willing to become like a servant, even giving up his life so that we could be free from all of our sins, just like we learned about last week. But that's not the end of the story. So tune in next week to find out more. So, who's Jesus? Jesus is God's son. He's fully God, but he's fully man too. See you next week.